This summer, I flirted with a European musician I met on tour.
Ooh.
We texted a lot on Instagram until his dog died, and then he ghosted me. Tough. Hello, and welcome back to the You Up podcast. I'm Jordana Abraham.
And I am Jared Freed. It is so good to be back here with you, Jordana. How are you? What's going on? How you been?
I'm good.
Yeah?
I'm good. Yeah, I had Dr. Naomi and
You had the whole family
all the
in.
kids.
How did it feel to host?
I call her Dr. Naomi now.
You do?
No, I don't. I should.
How does it feel to have like the whole family at the house? Did you feel like, you were an adult? Was it weird?
It was really fun. They were great. I again, I told you, it's like, it feels like they're just like home and we're hanging out and they do their own thing and then we hang out and like, we just had a really, really fun time. But it is funny because I got my first dose of like children in the house.
Right.
And like,
don't touch that.
Yes, kind of.
Right.
You
find out who the real you is. Well, you think you're chill.
Right. I'm trying
a little kid is
to be.
touching your new, kitchen table.
Yeah. So my nephew is 7 years old.
7-year-old boy. That's
7-year-old boy.
That's an animal.
He was like stress testing all of my furniture, literally just like jumping onto everything. He like spilled chocolate on my like my new white seats, and she was like, he was eating the chocolate cake, and then he's like rocking on the chair.
Yeah,
like it's like I'm like, I was like, you should work for the furniture company just to be the test run person, just to see like how much damage you can do to all this stuff. But he's so cute.
I would do anything to have a camera, like hidden camera, watching that whole thing.
Right.
Of
and
just you trying to stay chill. This little kid just being a kid.
Just being a guy.
He's
seeing
just
a
being a little boy.
Yeah. Right. And I love him. I'm like, we're just going to move you here to the cheap chair.
I think of stuff like that, and I'm pretty unbothered. Like, I think everything is funny.
I thought it was funny too.
Did you
but
catch
also,
yourself going like
expensive?
Right. This is going to be an expensive weekend.
Yeah.
That's great. I love that. How did Mike do with it all? Like, is he just watching? Is he involved?
Was great. Again, I think it was fun. He went and took a nap in the middle of the day. He's just like, what's her name from Love is Blind? What was her name?
Yeah, the Love is Blind woman who took a nap when the full family came over.
Yeah, it'd be so fun. I should have played that scene for him when he woke up.
Well,
my family.
Seems like you guys got this covered. I'm gonna
Texas.
Check out the bedroom.
No, it was great. It was very fun, relaxed vibe. We played games.
Love it.
We hung out. So pumped for that.
We had very different weekends. I was here in New York City and I did shows at the Cellar. So I was like, late night New York City fun weekend. Mm-hmm. There were like all these celebrities at the Cellar.
Why?
So I don't know what it is. I think stand-up comedy obviously is like having.
Who was there? Name drop.
I will name drop everyone. Will Arnett was going on stage.
I didn't even know he does stand-up.
He doesn't.
Okay.
He's doing a movie where he's playing a stand-up. Ooh. So he was going on, and the director's Bradley Cooper, who was also at the Cellar.
Did he do stand-up?
No, he would go on. So he was like watching Will Arnett go on stage, but Will Arnett would go on as like Kevin, like he was like in his
doing
role.
A bit. Okay.
Like,
or I was like, he was. Okay.
So yeah, he was like practicing.
Right.
So they'd be like, and next up is Kevin. And then Will Arnett would come on stage and like start doing the...
Did they give you any context for why they were calling him Kevin?
So apparently the crowd was like, Arrested Development! Like they're like yelling at him and they're like, she's trying to do a thing. Like,
he was so good on that show.
He's so, to see him on stage, he does have the presence. Mm-hmm. Like he knows how to be on stage. He is, he's amazing.
Right.
So that was that was the celebrity. And then
Did you meet all these people?
I didn't meet. I'm not a big. I like to watch from afar.
Right.
I'm at the Cellar to like work on my own shit. Like a little part of me, I'm like, get out of here. It's like we don't need you here. But then the crowd like
hyped, so hyped, yeah.
Hyped. I think when you go to a place like that, you're like, and maybe we'll see someone. And then when you do see someone, you're like, I got my thing. Yeah. Like I got my story to go home with. I got my thing to like text the group chat about, which I totally understand the excitement about that. So then another show, Amy Schumer came.
Oh, cool.
And brought Madonna.
What?
Madonna went on stage for 40 minutes at the Cellar.
40 minutes?
A hot 40. 40 is okay.
What was she talking about? Did she have
I'm not going to get into
a set?
She came with a set. I'm not going to get that far into it, but I'll respect that.
It's a long set. for a non-professional comedian.
Yeah. Some would call it a
one-woman show?
Well, that's the thing. I think, so to get a little inside baseball, if you don't mind, to get like inside comedy, when I go on the road, I do an hour set. There's an opener or maybe 2 openers, and they do a shorter set to get the crowd ready, and then I do my hour.
Right.
When I'm in New York, it's 15-minute showcase sets. So there's like 5 comics. There's a host who's also a comic, and they bring up, and everyone's doing 15 minutes to like, you're working. I'm looking to work on like 1 minute during that 15-minute set. Like I'm looking to work on like one thing, and then around it I do my other stuff.
Yeah.
Trying to perfect, and I'm trying to get that 1 minute. If you can get a new minute a week, this is a Bill Burr thing. New minute a week, you'll have 52 by the end of the year. So like that's my goal.
Right.
New minute a week to be able to build an hour that I can go on the road and then maybe tape as a special one day. So that's all the, mechanics of it. That's what I'm doing. I can't speak to other comics. I would think that's what they'd be doing too, similarly. But when someone shows up and is not on the calendar and is like, I'm going to go on, who's famous, like, okay, we all like back away. Like some people are famous enough to just get on stage, whether they're a comedian or not.
Well, that's almost when you've gotten a little too famous, when like you go on for 40 minutes and no one's feels comfortable enough to be like, it's a little ridiculous that you're going to try to go on for 40 minutes and you're not a professional comedian. Like when you're at that level,
I totally
it's
agree.
Almost too high. You need to be like able to be checked.
We're kind of living in this world of like, not to get into like the politics of it all, but like, when people bring up like income inequality, there is this like fame inequality too. Like, you go like Madonna's Madonna. Right. She has a following of whatever. Look, go on Instagram. That is a currency in itself. So if someone has 80 million Instagram followers, I'm making up a number, but you go, they kind of do whatever they want.
Right.
Which is not fair or
it's the highest caste system.
Right. It's an invisible caste system. So and also like I just told you, I'm like, Madonna's a one-name person.
Right. No one even knows what her last name is.
It doesn't matter. So she goes up and everyone's like, what the fuck? And imagine being in that crowd.
Yeah.
It is cool. It is a story.
Sure.
How'd she do? I don't know. And that's the thing. Like, when you mention a one-woman show, the problem with going on and being a famous person at the Comedy Cellar, I once heard.
Was she telling jokes?
There was attempt at jokes.
Okay.
And I think I think Seinfeld said this, or Chris Rock. I don't know who I'm quoting, but they were like, when you're famous, you get like, the more famous you are, the more time the audience gives you. But there is a limit where the audience goes, okay, time to be fucking funny.
Right.
Like you're wasting my time.
Right.
So it's like, in the beginning, like Seinfeld goes up and it's like, wow, people go crazy. The first things he says, people are going to laugh no matter what, is Seinfeld. Mm-hmm. And then like, reality sets in. And it's like, okay, what are the jokes? Like, there's a point where you become a normal person,
right?
Especially at a comedy club. The atmosphere is, you can't get around. You are in a comedy club, so laughs have to happen.
Yeah. If she did it in a theater, it might even be different.
It'd be different.
Yeah.
92nd Street Y. If you go up with your one-woman show, you'll get laughs because no one's expecting that.
Right.
They didn't buy a ticket for laughs. They bought a ticket for Madonna, and then wow, she was kind of funny. Mm-hmm. Different when you're in a comedy club. So. It was it's interesting to watch the dynamic of performer and audience, and it's very cool. And then like I came in, I did the brunch show at the Cellar, so I come in the next day, like Sunday 2:30, and there's Padma Lakshmi.
Ooh! Wow! Look at you!
Right? She was there with
all
Zarna Garg.
Friends.
Zarna Garg's like a big
yeah,
comedian.
she did one of the batches of comedy shows.
Zarna's very funny.
Right before she like
blew up.
Yeah, she's very funny.
Zarna's huge, so I think she's friends with Padma. But then I'm like, hey, I hadn't seen Zarna in a while, and everyone follows Zarna. She's hilarious. And then all of a sudden, I look next to her, and I'm like, oh, hi, I'm Jared. And it's like, I'm Padma. I'm like, oh, hey. Wow. And I looked at her, like, I was like, are you going on stage? Like, because everyone was talking about Madonna.
Right.
So it's a weird weekend, like, especially stand-up, like,
no one spilled chocolate on your couch.
No, not a lot of. Okay. Didn't see a lot of toddlers this weekend.
Fair.
We are almost at 16,000 followers on YouTube. So we're 200 away. If you're a listener and you don't use YouTube, go to YouTube.
Subscribe.
It costs you nothing.
You don't even have to look.
Right.
You don't even have to watch it there.
It helps
Just
us.
do it.
So help a show that you like. But if you are a YouTube person, give it a shot. Subscribe to the channel. I'm going to be in Australia, New Zealand, but also Rochester, New York. Hey, I'm going to come have a garbage plate, and I'm going to go eat your garbage. That's what they have. They have garbage plates there. That's a thing. They just put a bunch of garbage on a plate, and they eat it like pigs. So I'm going to be one of you pigs in Rochester. So I'm coming, and jaredfree.com. And Jordana, you got what's going on? I've been listening to Oversharing. It's great.
Glad you're enjoying. We're
big fan.
We got subscribe. Did you hear yourself on our subscription episode?
I haven't heard it yet.
We'll have to send it to you.
Send it to me.
Send it to you.
I don't want to pay money for that shit.
To hear us
I
dissect your own rant.
I would love it.
Yeah. So we've got subscription episodes. They're out. There's 2 a month. There's 2 out right now, and you get day early, ad free, just like this show. And we're starting to do videos soon too for that show, so you can watch that on YouTube.
The Way of the World. And The Bachelor is on YouTube.
Oh, yeah.
The Bachelor podcast, which I'm a part of. I think The Bachelor's a fun show. We recap, but we talk about reality news a little bit. We preview the season. I don't know. I know it's tough to get into a recap show if you don't watch the show.
Right. But I mean, sometimes it's better than watching the show.
I think we do a great job of just
I watched your story. I used to watch your stories on Instagram, even though I didn't watch the actual Bachelor. It's funnier.
That's better because it has the visual with it, like you're seeing it, and I'm trying my best to make fun of things in ways that you don't need to watch the show.
Right. Well, now it's on YouTube.
Now it's on YouTube. Everything's on YouTube, so go. What are we talking about today?
All right. I'll read our first email. Hi, J&J, longtime listener. I have now been in 2 different relationships that lasted around 2 years each, where we also live together. In both cases, the sex life has completely died down to nothing or almost nothing, and that, combined with other issues, have led me to end them both. I've always been the only one that ends up initiating sex towards the 1-year mark and then has to bring it up in conversation to try and figure out the issue. Eventually, I get tired of being the only one initiating, so I stop doing so, and the sex halts to nothing. During one conversation about it with my recent ex, he told me that when he has time off from work, he masturbates almost every day while I'm away at work. He said that this was not an issue and that I was exaggerating.
The door shuts. He just turns into this animal. We're going to go get it out of me.
I know my other ex masturbated often too when I went to the gym and he stayed home. What is she taking a survey?
I guess putting up cameras, the nanny cam.
Asking for tallies, yeah.
Put it on the wall. How many times did you come?
To note, I know people are still going to masturbate even if they have a healthy sex life with their partner. That isn't the issue. It's that they had enough sex drive to masturbate, but not enough to initiate with me in bed with them every night. When I start dating again, I don't want to go through this for a 3rd time. Since it's happened twice now, it's hard not to blame myself or the way I look. I don't know what I could have done differently, and it's making me nervous to date again. Thanks for all you do. Sexless and the city. Jared, why are they not initiating with me? Is it a me problem? Why would the sex drive go from so high to nothing about a year and a bit?
Let me see some pictures of her. No, I'm kidding. Well, that's a joke because she's miscalculated male masturbation.
Right.
Is my opinion.
Yes.
I think connecting it to your looks, a guy masturbating instead of you, I don't think that's a 1-for-1 thing. That's never been the case with me. So I think masturbation and sex are 2 totally different things. Masturbation is self-care. Sex is a form of self-care, but it's with a partner. It's just different.
I think you're getting different things out of each of that. It seems like because they have the same end result.
Right.
That it's the same thing. And I get why one would think that.
Yeah.
But I think they fulfill 2 different needs.
Right. I masturbate sometimes to go to bed.
Right.
I don't think I would be with a partner and be like, hey, I'm having trouble sleeping. Get over it. Let me fuck you so I can...
right. Well, that's
out.
like a mechanic. That's almost like a mechanical.
Right. That's to show her a lot of this masturbation stuff is mechanical, and but I will agree with her. The connection between someone having the energy, especially as a guy. I even noticed as I'm 39, almost 40. It's a different buildup than maybe it was in my 20s. So I'm not just ready to go 5 minutes after I've just, gone.
Right.
To try and speak classily about this, without being too gross. I'm just saying, I can even understand, like, if I've been, like, as a single guy, if I end up with someone and I've been, like, and I've masturbated that, like, a couple times, that week, I'm a different guy in that singles. Like, on that date, I'm less likely to have sex than,
Right.
and so it is
You're not
connected.
saving yourself for
Oh,
a
I ain't
partner.
saving myself at all.
Okay.
I go home and I let it fly. No,
Here's my question,
sure.
I guess. Like, she's saying they have a live-in girlfriend,
Mm-hmm.
right? That they're not trying to sleep with. And if she doesn't initiate, nothing happens. But if they masturbated less, would they be more likely to initiate or like to want it because of that?
This is another thing. So I don't know the scenario because she has 2 live-in boyfriends that she moved out from. So sex, when you're not gonna be together,
Right, because
is
she
like
says
the first,
this and other things.
right?
I
But
read
it's the
there.
first thing to go. Everybody says the sex is the first thing to go, and I know in my relationship when I lived with someone, like that was the first thing. I was like, let me hold off on this while I think about that.
Oh, so you think they're purposely doing that?
I think
Okay.
there's a little bit of correlation, so to speak. Like if she was writing in about her husband of 10 years and hey, the sex is off and he masturbates all the time, it's kind of a different. We have a different beast to deal with. She's like asking us to get ahead for her next relationship. I can't do that for you.
Right.
I can't help. You're going to date someone. You're going to fall in love with someone, and you're going to have rough times in your sex life with that same person. Like, these are just facts of life. How do you get through them? How do you talk about them? How do you, and I think the masturbation thing for a lot of men, we don't need a lot to masturbate. I could do it in an alley any 10 minutes, any time.
You don't need a mood set?
I don't need to like have the lights down, candles lit. Like I so it's very easy. It's like almost like so readily available to us.
It's all about you. You don't. There's no
Right.
one out. There's no one with any other expectations.
And you don't have
in
to
the
worry
room.
about
Yes.
like embarrassing yourself, underperforming for someone. There's more stresses in sex than from the male side than maybe we are given credit for.
No, and I think that makes a lot of sense. And if you, like you said, it's the first thing to go, right? And so I think that there's the difference between sex and masturbation is, like you said, the other person on the other side of it and their needs and what they're looking for. And I think that the thing that it doesn't have is intimacy, right? And so she's saying this and other things caused me to end the relationship. So maybe it was this and a lack of intimacy. Maybe it was this and a lack of connection or lack of communication. Like, I do think for both people, and I think for men, it's sort of thrown out as this purely physical thing where like, oh, if they don't want to do it, they must find you unattractive or they're ready. Because I think that women are told like men are ready for sex at any point.
Right.
And so it can feel that much more, like you could feel that much more rejected when someone's not initiating, because society is like, oh, men will have sex with anything at any point, at any time. And I can understand why it feels like an ego thing. But I do think that there's an element of connection to it or feeling close to someone because there's another option for you. You could just get off on your own. So in order to bring the other person into it, I think there has to be a level of comfort and intimacy and communication on a male side too.
No. It goes all ways. And I think you're exactly right that like, this isn't just like sex, not sex. Like if you're not having sex and then you're breaking up, then you weren't having communication.
Right.
Those other things that you're talking about. So like, if you couldn't even get to these people to have these conversations, we have to figure out like, if we're looking at sex this way, maybe we have to look at it in a different way. Like maybe she's looking at, like when you go, well, you won't have sex with me, so you're not attracted to me. Well, we're not even having a conversation.
Right.
Like we're not getting to the root of this whole thing. So like, how does she get ahead of it for next time? It's like, are you talking about those uncomfortable things? Like, are you getting, having the pillow talk?
Right. Are you nurturing this connection with your partner? Are you feeling connected?
She has questions for you. How would you not give up on initiating when they won't try either?
Again, I think this is a communication question. I wouldn't be like, oh, just keep trying, just keep initiating, and eventually. I think it's like if you're in an intimate partnership, intimate relationship, you would have a conversation not in bed about your, what you're looking for in sex. Hey, I've noticed like I do most of the initiating. It makes me feel a lot more wanted and sexy when you initiate? Why do you feel like you don't really do that as much? Are you,
Right.
you know, and like just figure, I think that if you're in an intimate relationship with a partner who can communicate, you would hope that they can communicate their feelings around partner sex or their own masturbation habits.
I would also say to this person, if it's happening in the beginning of the relationship, then you guys are like, it ain't gonna happen. Like, to me, like if I'm thinking of me, like
What's
when
not going to happen?
I'm saying, like, if I'm kind of holding back on sex in the beginning, or like, oh, sorry, I masturbated 6 times today, I can't do it. That means I'm not really that excited about the prospects of being with this person. Not because of their looks or whatever, just the general vibe. If I am excited, I'm like thinking about my masturbation, thinking about like, oh, you know, for like our 3rd date. Oh, I better be ready. I better be good for this person. So if it's not happening in the beginning like that, if they're like, oh fuck, I can't.
I don't know if it's like the beginning. It seems like they live together.
So this is my point.
Right.
As you move forward, sex relationship changes. It's just what it is. Like, and I'm thinking of like myself. Like, I can understand where if I'm living with a partner, you do lose track. You're like, oh, I masturbated earlier. I guess we'll do it another time.
Right.
Because you're always here. You know?
Right.
Like, so
well, that's the thing, which leads me to our next question.
Right.
Which is, how do you keep the spark alive, bring it back when you've gone through a rut in a long-term relationship? One, I want to normalize that. I don't think it's
happens.
like, yeah.
Right.
Of course it happens. Also, you're with the same person. Like, and I think the whole idea behind a rut is like, because you're with the same person for a long time, and the longer you're with them, the longer things feel like very comfortable and normal. And I think that it takes effort and like novelty. I remember reading about this, like doing things that are like new together, new experiences, like trying new things, getting a little bit of a rush in other ways makes you feel more connected to the person, and also makes you see a new side of the person.
Right.
Every couple I know who's been married for a long time talks about how when they go on vacation, that's like
new
the
room,
time
new
that
sheets,
it all
new,
right.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
they're in a new environment. It feels like special. It feels different. It's really about getting out of like,
so you kind of look different.
yeah, a little bit of that.
Different
Or maybe you're
hairstyles.
trying, you're going on a tour, you're seeing a new city, you're on a tour
Right.
somewhere, you're trying a new restaurant, whatever it is.
Different alleyway to fucking.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, why do people, you see people at role play or like wigs
Right,
or things like that. They're trying to like be with someone a little new.
The dream that I've always said, I want to date a hairstylist because it was like different haircuts, same person.
Right, because you feel a little bit, and this kind of sounds like, I guess maybe it could sound insulting or like a little not romantic, but like you're with a new person.
Right.
That's
No,
what you
this
miss out
is-
on when you're in a relationship, is being with new people every night. So getting
Right.
that novelty. So if you can make yourself into a little bit of a new person, new place, new location, new something, I think that's really what gets people.
To add on to that, I would also say planning sex, like planning the night. I hear this all the time. I think that's hot. Like, if there's negativity to that, I think that's like a little bit. I think you want a perfect world, and there just isn't. I think if you're like, I'm like thinking of like a man, like what men are fixers. Okay, be there by 8.
Yeah.
Like, okay, if I get there by 8, I have beaten the level. So when you're dealing with someone, you're living with someone, they're masturbating all the time, you're like, okay, listen, Yankee, like, you better be ready for Thursday night, 8:00. We are doing, it's fuck night for us. Do you know what I mean? Like, and now it's like.
And then treat it like you would like a third date.
Right. So now you have
Right.
3rd date in the calendar. He Monday, he's like, okay, let's start saving the cum. The mindset. It's like, I just know where to set my bearings. So it's like when you're living together and it's like, you're like, I'm always initiating. It's like, I get like you want the spontaneity, but maybe this produces the spontaneity. Maybe, this relieves the pressure of like, well, he hasn't done it, this week. I'm the only one doing it. You go, it's Thursday. That's when it's happening. All the other stuff, cream. Right. All the other stuff surprises me. All the other, if it happens the other way, then you'll be, you've outperformed, you've over-delivered. And I just think like, especially for a lot of men, it's like, for me, I know that like when I get in these arguments, I'm like, how do I like get this person to shut the fuck up? Like, how do I
talk about romance?
How do I do a good job for this person? I want to be told this is how you win.
Right.
So I think if they say like you circle the calendar and you go the 3rd Saturday of every month, and I know that's
you
small.
initiate.
fuck me.
Yeah.
That's when we fuck. Like, I'm expecting to be fucked. That's a fun goal. And again, you might be like, once a month. I'm not, whatever you want to do. Yeah.
Yeah, whatever your needs are.
So, I mean, I hope that takes someone inside our minds.
I think these are all practical tips.
Right.
Yeah.
She's just never going to, like, how do I avoid this happening again? Ain't going to happen.
Yeah.
You're going to have it happen again.
You can't avoid occasional lull. I don't think that's like, if you're with someone for a long period of time, like, that's a little bit part of like what, I mean, maybe not for everyone, but like from what I hear.
Don't be offended by someone else's masturbation. I think that's like a helpful thing.
Right.
Because how many times have I been
Don't be
on
offended,
my
but you
laptop and I like get done and I'm like, who am I? Let's do an awkward encounter.
Let's do it.
J&J, love you guys jumping it right into my question. I've been seeing a guy for a little over a month now. Things are going really well. Still in the early days, but we're having a great time together, and I can definitely see this heading in a direction of a relationship. But here's where it gets a little more complicated. I've also been going on a few other first dates with people I met on the apps. Nothing serious, just keeping things casual. Now here's the twist. Last week, I discovered that the guy I'm seeing, let's call him Guy 1. Oh, a creative we have on our hands. And one of the other guys I went on a date with, Guy 2, are actually friends. I realized this when I was looking at Guy 1's Instagram with him and saw that one of the people who liked his post was Guy 2. Apparently, they went to college together and are part of the same friend group. Here's the dilemma. I know I haven't done anything wrong since I'm not exclusive with Guy 1, and I didn't talk to Guy 2 after that one date, but it still feels a little awkward, right? Like, if this progresses with Guy 1, I'm probably going to run into Guy 2 eventually, and I don't know how to handle when that time comes. So my question is, should I tell Guy 1 about this date with Guy 2 at some point? I'm thinking it might be a good idea, but I'm not sure when or how to bring it up. Would love your advice on how to navigate this. Thanks so much. What do you think?
Interesting question.
I love this question.
Very 2025.
Yes.
I think a like does not mean a very good friend.
Mm-hmm.
And if I were her, I would only bring this up if the other person gets mentioned.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? Like, it's because it's like, that's how you're going to determine how close of a friend, how big of a, I don't think you need to like say, I saw this person liked your Instagram post just so you know I went on a date with him.
Okay.
Or I used to date him. I think it's more like if the person mentions their friends or brings you around someone or brings them in, then would be the appropriate time to say, oh, I know that person. We actually went, what did she said, the other guy was like just a guy she went on a date with, right?
Yeah, one date, never talked to him afterwards.
Right. I think I would mention that casually.
I agree with you, but I also have played it differently.
Okay.
I've had this happen in a more serious way. In a crazy turn of events, I realized that I had like dated two people who were like family.
Right.
And
I remember this.
Yeah. And I remember trying to figure out how to navigate it. And I did have a thought to myself where I'm like, this is kind of like, what type of adult am I?
When you say dated, though, like, I think that's important.
Totally important. Yeah. There's levels to this. There's nuance. I don't think my situation is the same as hers. I agree. Like, this is like very small. Mm-hmm. I agree. It's also, her feelings are validated. It's awkward.
Yeah.
She has one guy that she's like, and again, you know, this, but I do think like, it's nice that you feel a little bit weird about it. That means you care about, you know, the person that you're trying to see.
Right. And you care about what he thinks.
You care about what he thinks, and you don't want anyone to feel their feelings hurt or feel lied to. Like, and I think, you know, the way this comes out, the person writing it in knows that if it came out a certain way to them, they might feel less trustworthy, you know, less trusting of that person.
Right. Versus
if it came out a different way, you know.
So how would you want to know? If it was you dating this
woman.
I
was dating them, I'm trying to think of scenarios where I wouldn't like it.
Okay.
I wouldn't.
Would you not like the way I suggested?
I wouldn't like to have. But I wouldn't like to have been at a party and then found out afterwards.
You went on one date. That you went on one date with someone, one of your friends.
I would just have it would sting. I'm not saying I wouldn't. It would.
Why would it sting?
I don't know. Just that everyone knew something that I didn't. Oh, you know, like okay. I just that it's just a sting. I'm just saying, like, it's not that something I would break up with someone about, but I would just sting.
Okay.
From her angle, I just would want it off my mind.
Okay.
Like, I don't want to have to like have this come up and then feel like I'm like trying to like, you know,
Right.
plug holes in the ship. Like because sometimes I get in that scenario when I let something lie, I then, when it comes out, I always feel like I sound like a liar even though I'm not.
You always say the cover up is worse than the crime.
Way worse.
Right. But I guess my thought is like, just because she saw that he liked an Instagram post and maybe they were friends in college, right?
Right. It doesn't, right.
My thought is like, this could be someone he hasn't spoken to. You could still be liking someone's posts and you haven't spoken to them in years and you have no relationship with them and you might never see them again, right? So in my mind, it's like to preemptively bring this information up to the guy just seems like not necessarily.
It's not necessary.
It depends how close they are. That's like,
Well,
to me,
also,
that's
she says that they're not in a relationship yet. She goes, I could see this going somewhere.
Right.
And she's also actively dating still, which that's fine. I think if it got to the point where like where they decide we want to be in a committed relationship, if you brought it up then, like, hey, I gotta like just like let you know something, that would be I think a fine time to say it.
I gotta let you know I went on a date with someone you knew in college. That seems.
I'm just going back to how I felt
Right.
so much better. Like when I figured this all out,
Okay.
the person that I was going to go on a date with, I had dated someone in their family.
How long did you?
Let's say a month, but it's a whole long story
Okay.
that is tough and confusing to tell that I'm not.
All right.
But I did say to them, listen, just want to let you know, like, I used to date so-and-so and I'm figuring out that maybe you guys are close. And they were like, oh my God, and they were like so kind. Like, I can't, like, again, they could have said, hey, that's too much. And honestly, they could have looked at me and gone, it's too much for me.
Sure.
I'm out. And
Yeah.
I would have respected that. But they were like, hey, figures we'd have the same taste. She like, it was like very cool. Let me call them, and then call me back, and then text me back, hey.
Got the green light.
Right. Like, let's go out. And we did. I had a moment of feeling good about myself. Like, where I was like, you handled that like an adult, which is risking, losing someone.
Right. But what?
By being the best version of yourself.
I totally get that. I do think though, like they're family members, right?
I'm comparing two situations that with the nuance involved.
So how would you do that? How would you
this?
suggest it? And I gave you my.
Here's how my brain would work. I would go, wow, this is a signal that I really like this person. I should concentrate on them.
Okay.
I feel bad enough about this that obviously I feel something for this person. Let me get off the apps. Let me stop dating other people. Let me start concentrating on this guy. Let's see where this goes. If it gets more serious, if I'm her, at some point, if it's still hanging with you, hey, I just have to let you know, I'm on your Instagram. I see that the guy that I went on a date with liked your post. I just want to know what your relationship with them is. And I went on a date with them. It was a nothing date.
Don't you think if you were about to like be in a relationship, you would know if that person was like a big part of this person's life?
It doesn't even matter at that point. Like,
I guess. I don't know.
Big or small, like big or small is a concern of being caught. I just want to get to know this person without holding back anything.
Right.
And I think this is a little thing that, not a big thing, that she could always feel like she wasn't totally honest with him. This is for her more than him. Because I see her side. Because I do remember feeling just like, oh, good, we're fresh.
Right.
Like.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I
didn't have any
see your side. I think
Right.
realistically, if it were me, I wouldn't bring it up unless the person was mentioned at all. Like I wouldn't bring it up from seeing it someone like an Instagram post. I think I would have to like have heard this person mention this person or meet this person and then say that like in that way. It just seems like too small, too much unknown about their relationship where I would feel like to bring it up, it wouldn't matter. Like it might be like, it might just feel weird and random and like information that no one needs.
Right. I guess like I could see, it sounds like, do you think that like bringing this up is like, it lessens them too somehow? Like that it's like, why would you bring this up to like make me feel bad?
Right. Well, that was my, I guess, other feeling about it. It's like, why? So you like saw an Instagram like, and now you need to tell me do you need to tell me every person that you went on a date with that you've seen ever? Like, if this person was brought up in any way, shape, or form, if she was like, he mentions the name of his friend, whatever, or they're going to a party and they see him, I think, of course, say it right away. We went on a date, actually. But I feel like if Mike told me he went on a date with someone I went to college with and I haven't seen in like 10 years, I'd be like, all right, like you didn't really need to tell me that.
I guess my version, similarly but different, is like, wait till you guys are more serious, where this becomes a nothing conversation.
Right.
I think if it's something that she brings up when they're like committed,
right,
I think it's less of a nudge. There's like, it's just like
I
conversation.
agree.
That's the wait I would do.
And again, if she like used to date this guy, like for real, or if this was like her ex-boyfriend and it's her
Different
friend,
story.
Totally different story.
Right.
If it was like a significant
I could see what you're saying, where it's like, it kind of could feel like, are you trying to like
make me jealous?
Right.
Yeah.
What are you trying? That's why I think waiting until they're committed.
Yeah.
Hey, we're a thing. And by the way, I saw this guy liked your thing. I went on one date with that guy. How close are you?
Right.
That could be a fun conversation between a boyfriend and girlfriend.
Yeah. And would you care again if like
no,
if someone you were dating went on one date with your friend?
No.
Even if they were like your good friend.
I'd just be more curious. How'd you meet? What was the deal? What they do on the date? I'd like want to embarrass my friend.
There you go.
Did they pay? Like all that shit. All right, let's do another email. You ready?
Let's do it. Yeah.
Go for it.
Dear J&J, love the podcast. I'm 42 and recently back in the dating world after
Welcome back.
Welcome back. Welcome back.
What?
Welcome. ...
Welcome back.
It's a great theme song.
Yeah, it is. Good show.
Yeah.
Welcome back, Connor.
I'm 42 and recently back in the dating world after finding out my husband of 16 years had a 20-something girlfriend for 2 years.
Welcome back.
Fun times.
Your husband cheated, now you're back.
There you go. I'm learning all the modern dating terms like ghosting, thanks to you both. Happy to fill you in on riveting new stuff. This summer, I flirted with a European musician I met on tour.
Ooh.
We texted a lot on Instagram until his dog died, and then he ghosted me. Tough.
This woman can't catch a break.
Right?
Welcome back.
Sounds like she's having a great time.
Bono's dog died and you're back. Download the app.
I felt bad for him, so I ordered a small painting of his dog from Etsy as a thoughtful gesture. I now realize this was a grand gesture way too soon. Okay. That's
very nice of her.
Very nice. Perhaps she was right and it's a little too soon.
Okay.
He never picked it up from customs. He has to go to customs? How does that work?
I think when you get mailed something from abroad,
you have to like
go pick it up.
Oh, yeah.
He never gave him a to-do list rather than a gift.
He never picked it up from customs, barely responded when I followed up. My anxious self sent a time-lapse video of it, to which he responded, "Wow, thanks."
Hey.
And eventually the painting got sent back to me. Now he's liking all my posts and commenting again, but I'm over it. Still, I'm stuck with this dog painting and wondering if I should keep it in case we cross paths again. We might work together, or just toss it. Should I tell him it hurt my feelings? I'm guessing not, since I might have to work with him again professionally. So my question, how do I avoid being that person who does too much too soon in the future? Thanks. Do I throw Sparky in the garbage? Fetch.
What do you think?
I appreciate the self-awareness, that she's like, I think it was a little soon for this gesture. But it wouldn't have been too soon if it was like hot and heavy, if it was on. I think someone you're DMing, I would say if you're 42 and you've been out of the dating scene for 16 years, one thing I think she's learning a lesson, which is that DMing is not the same as like in-person hangouts, and you're not really getting the same level of intimacy there.
I have this happen in my own life where someone is like aware, but then like unaware at the same time.
Right.
Like I think she's aware of like, oh, maybe the painting of his dead dog was a little bit too soon to send over, the Atlantic Ocean. Like,
right.
This
is like a very intimate gift.
Right. And she's also
not that, again, he didn't respond nicely, but I think that.
Well, I think he responded as much. Here's the thing about a gift is you're putting your cards on the table.
Yeah, it's vulnerable.
It's vulnerable. So like I do, there's a couple things that I don't like that she's doing to herself. She's like, how do I avoid doing too much too soon in the future? I don't know if this was too much too soon. You felt a connection with this person to have a random woman in Iowa paint a picture of a dog that had passed away.
That you've never met.
Yeah. So good for you. I like the boldness. I like the vulnerability. And then you have to also listen to how that's received. On his end, he's like, wow, this person really likes me. And I like DMing with them. We are on 2 different pages. I've had this happen to me where like, I have people message me. They're like, you message with my sister all the time. And I'm like, I go look at the message. I like hearted everything. Right. And I'm like, this is being told back to me in a way that I am
from a totally different lens.
Totally different lens. And I do think because, I'm not Madonna, but because there's a following, it could feel like, well, he's answering only me.
Right.
And I answer pretty much everyone. So like I'm not saying that I've gone on dates from DMs. I've
and that's the hurtful part, because it does feel like, oh, you were in this delusion that this person felt like your connection was special.
Right.
And that's one-sided, clearly, here.
It's one-sided, and it feels bad from my side. Like, I don't want someone being on a different page than me. Like, I have been sent gifts before.
I know.
And I've told you about that, where it forced me to go, Jared, the fog is gone.
Yeah.
We know everything now. I can't sit here and be naive to this person felt a gift was appropriate considering our relationship, where to me it was like we're 2 nice people that enjoy each other's company sometimes, and it means it means only so much.
That's the part. That's the tough part about the digital world, I think, and it's especially, I think it's more of an advantage for men than women in that you can be having these conversations which can feel intimate on text or on DM. And you can feel like there's no way to know what it means to the other person.
To this woman's point, like, I can understand why she's like, I sent him this, painting of his dog who died, and then he didn't even pick it up.
Right.
That stings. But also, like, he wasn't where you were. Take the note. Like, this is, and that's not take the note for every relationship. There's going to be someone who's going to enjoy a portrait of a collie.
Yeah. But it's a very sweet gift for someone who you have an intimate relationship with.
But now here's my issue.
That's an Our Story page gift.
Right. And here's the issue I have with her. She's like, now he's liking all my posts and comments again, but I'm over it. But you're accepting this. And what he's doing, and it's like, why is he, how do I avoid being that person who does too much too soon in the future? No. Let's avoid not taking the message.
Well, that's what we teach you to do, is be a better consumer.
Right.
Right.
Because right now, I'm not going to tell her to stop being romantic and fun and send people nice, sweet gestures. I would never do that. Good for her. I think that's a nice thing she did. I think it's a bad thing to sit here going, well, now he's liking my post as if that means something. No. He's liking your post in the same way he was liking them before.
Right.
In the, I'll take a blowjob from you one time, next time you're in Europe.
All right. And to be a better consumer of men is to know, okay, I'm actually clocking the things that he's done in the past that show that who he really is, that he's not interested in a serious relationship, that he's not looking for kind of really deep, intimate partnership. And so I'm going to block this person and move on.
Right. Or even send a message. Like, if I were her, because she mentions a professional relationship, they could work together.
Sure.
She could message him, hey, listen, I got to back away from this. We got a little personal. I'm going to unfollow you from me. I'm going to unfollow you just because I'd rather keep this professional now that I know that we're not going to go further in the personal way.
Right.
Like, just say that.
Yeah.
Get it out on the table. I tried. I guess we were on different pages. That sucks.
Right. Message received, but I also don't want to
engage in this liking.
Anymore.
Right.
Right.
And I can
understand why she's like, oh, he came back.
Right.
He's like,
he must have rethought the painting. Like,
yeah.
And fucking throw away the painting.
Throw that out if you haven't thrown that out. Write off. Just as a write off.
Right.
As a work gift.
Yeah. Rufus is going in the garbage.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Because You can't just hang around with this painting. Well, maybe one day we cross paths and I'll give it to him. No. It's over.
Yeah, and I understand. I appreciate what she's doing. She's got a learning curve of like getting back into the dating world.
Totally.
It's harder to read messages now than it was in our parents' day and age. It's harder to get a sense of, because there's so many ways to contact someone.
Right.
It's like when our parents were dating, you had to call someone on the phone and like speak to them on the phone, not do anything else while you're speaking to them, and then ask them on a date if you wanted to see them.
Right.
Now you can be DMing like 10 people at the same time.
Right.
And it feels like it's maybe the intimacy of a phone call, but it's not.
Right.
Because it requires so much of a lower lift.
And I would say to her, the people you DM with as someone who's not a public persona are your friends and family. So then if he's mixed into that group, it can very well feel like a friend or a family member.
Right.
So that is not how it feels to him. And he's proven that. So I wish her the best.
Same.
Let's play some games.
Let's do it.
Red flag or deal breaker. We love a red flag or deal breaker. For the new listeners, if you don't know red flag or deal breaker, here's the game. You're dating someone and it's going perfectly. They do one thing. Is it a red flag? You notice it, but you keep going? Or is it a deal breaker and you end it right away? You ready?
Ready. Let's do it.
J&J, huge fan of the pod. I listen every week. Have told all my friends. Even got my mom, who is in her mid-50s and married for almost 30 years into it. Welcome. A few weeks ago, I matched with a guy on Hinge. He had a few schools listed in his bio, which was a little odd, but I didn't think much of it. He's a lawyer, so I figured that he'd been to at least 2 schools. The first school listed was an Ivy League school.
Ooh.
Look at that. One of Jordana's people. On the date.
We'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, anyone can just say it. On the date, he told me where he went to college and law school and mentioned that he got an online certificate from the Ivy. I later looked up the certificate, and the entire program was less than 8 hours over the course of several months. I like that she's like, it just came up that he went, that the Ivy was a certificate. She's like, that was like her first question on the date. It was a few free hour-long lectures. So basically, he wrote that he went to this school that he probably has never stepped foot in. I found him on LinkedIn, and his headline there was also the Ivy League school. This was a deal breaker for me, but would love to hear your take. So, red flag or deal breaker, the guy you're dating misleads you about what colleges he went to. A college catfish betch. It's funny that she's like, yeah, he also had this one thing. Like, this is all she cared about.
Yeah.
Which I don't blame her
I don't blame her. This is a deal breaker.
Yeah.
I think it's like, it's just lame. It shows that he's like, one, it's like a little deceptive. Mm-hmm. I don't know. It's like sad. Well, I think it's like a little pathetic.
Let me add on to this. It's stolen valor.
Yeah.
It's a form of that where it's like everyone knows, listen, I'm not like a big fan of the college thing. Like
of a college education.
Well, college education, I'm not as impressed by a college education as maybe other generations would have been.
Okay.
I think there's 5 schools that matter on a resume, undergrad. Mm-hmm. And
I also think men don't care as much as women.
About the woman's schooling?
Yeah.
Fine. But if I met a woman who went to Harvard, I would be impressed and have questions.
Okay.
If I met a woman who went to Penn State, where I went to school, I go, oh, same fucking idiot as me. Not a big deal.
Okay.
No one looks at my resume and goes, whoa, Penn State, excuse me. You know when they do that? When they think it's Penn.
Right.
They go, whoa, Penn. And I go, yes, that's where I went to school.
Yeah.
And I let them believe the lie because they're a stupid fucking idiot too. So this is all to my point.
Right, but you're not putting Penn on your...
That's my point.
Yes.
When I used to work selling life insurance, I knew about these programs. You could get, and again, this guy has the same one, the Wharton School. Wharton must be making $1 billion off of idiots who just want the certificate to put on their resume. Right. Because you could do this for finance. You could be like, I went to, put on your business card, the Wharton School. But it's really that you just went and got an online certificate. I know exactly what she's talking about.
Well, that's why it's so lame.
And it's very lame. Anyone who had it was a loser. And here's the problem. Here's why it's a deal breaker for me. You are now signing up. If you get married to this person, you are signing up to hold hands with a lie.
Right.
Something you don't believe in.
This is what this person also does. Right. So I wouldn't trust anything they said.
Right. So, but now you're with them. Like, if you end up with them, you have to, your whole life, from minute one, just kind of go along with this.
Right.
Because it is a way people make money. They put that on their, you know, whether he's in law or not. If he's in finance, especially if you're in retail finance, if you're like selling mutual funds and things like that, it is a way to grift people.
Yeah. I mean, this is a good example of like the opposite of what you suggest. This is an overpromise, underdeliver.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So this is like, to me, the equivalent of lying about your height.
Right.
You know, if I'm wearing tall shoes, I'm 6 feet. Like, just be who you are.
Right. But then
Right,
you have to like be with that person forever and like nod along with this lie.
Yeah. And you know that they're like insecure.
Right.
Because that's why someone would do that.
Deal breaker.
Deal breaker. Agreed.
Let's do another one.
Hi, J&J and Candace, longtime listener from the very early days, benefit subscriber and follower of pretty much everything Jared, Jordana, and the Betches do.
We love it.
Need your opinion on what I think is a red flag for my last relationship. My ex was early 30s and had a younger sister, mid 20s. His younger sister's friend had drawn a picture of her from a photo. On Etsy, maybe, from the same dog woman. He made a print
A lot of artists on Etsy.
Seriously.
Just, you know.
I mean, that's what the site is.
Well, I get right. Well, when we had the woman draw my future girlfriend.
Yeah.
It's like unbelievable.
He made a print of the drawing and hung it with other pictures and art in his bedroom. For context, this was a portrait of just her head, kind of a fake, candid looking off to the side and playing with her hair. Probably 14 by 10 inches. So, like, not small.
That's a pretty big picture. Would we say this is
I think that's about 14 by 10, give or
10?
take.
Yeah.
Close enough.
I'd say this is it.
So red flag or deal breaker, your partner has a hand-drawn portrait of his sister hanging on his bedroom wall. Not a deal breaker, but weird.
It's weird.
I'd make fun of it.
I'd make fun of it. I agreed. The only thing that saves it is that it's amongst other art projects, she said.
Yes, it's not just, if it was just the picture of her, that might be a deal breaker.
I'd be like, is she dead? If it was just her, I would
Right.
think it was like, you know, you put candles up next to it every night.
Yeah.
and
Well, if
you
she was
honor
dead,
your sister.
would it be okay?
Still weird. You stared at by the Mona Lisa on the wall? Yeah, I don't know.
I agree.
It's weird,
Any
but not
family
a deal
member, I think, it would be weird.
Right.
What if it was him?
Well, I'd have to say that's a green flag as a guy who has a
Picture of yourself. Yeah.
a painting of myself in my bathroom.
Right.
I if it's him, I kind of get it. Someone painted it for him. It's like,
I would assume they're really close.
what if it's his brother? What if it's a brother? Would you know?
Still weird. A little creepier that it's his sister. I'll give her that.
Right.
I would say red flag. I would make fun of it and I would ask about it. And I think if he was like a good sport about it,
Right.
then it would be fine.
And also, that's one of those things that's like,
So also like could be like, oh, he just has no idea how to decorate. Is this picture?
where
Just
else
hung
does
up.
it go?
Yeah.
Well, if you're moving in together, let's say you're moving in together and you're like, hey, what are we going to do with the painting of your sister? And he's like, bedroom.
Right.
What do you say?
I would be
No?
like, no.
Where do you put it as a couple? Like, where would you put it in your? If Mike had a portrait of his sister
In the photo album.
no wall, I'm not allowing this to go to a wall.
Yeah.
Basement. It is weird.
Yeah. I don't think so. Yeah.
Let's do one more.
Okay.
J&J, I'm a male listener, 43, dating a woman 34, and have a red flag deal breaker I think y'all might find interesting. So we're on dinner number 5 or 6.
Or 5 or 6.
Okay.
I would know which date it was. if
Yeah,
it was
he
me.
knows. The dinner's winding down, the drinks are flowing, and she starts talking about her ex. I'm at the age now where it's a bigger red flag if they never do, so great. I'm with him.
I would agree with that.
Yeah. Problem. She started comparing how they've each been doing since the breakup. Her take, he's doing much worse. She mentioned his lack of posting on social media, the fact that he hadn't been reaching out to his friends in common, and some other petty shit about how he looked when a friend saw him. It didn't just come off as petty, it was infantile. This guy's got quite a vocabulary.
Yes.
I think she caught herself because then she started comparing me to her ex. How my generosity, I always pay for dinner and her Ubers home from mine, and prowess in bed were superior to what he brought to the table and more indicative of a man she could grow old with. Sounds like she had a couple
Yikes.
too many martinis. This felt dehumanizing and like I was reduced to marryability or a set of discrete scores or a checklist of attributes. This guy's a very good writer, and
this is definitely like a spin of it. Like he's telling a tale.
He's telling a tale.
This is a very male way to tell this story.
Right. And he's making it, there's a female version of this too, where you make it more than it is. Like, I agree with him. It came off bad. To say, I was reduced to marryability or not. I understand. That's
a little dramatic.
We see this in a different way from women. It's dramatic. Yeah, is a proper word. It felt like it completely discounted our actual chemistry. Suddenly, I had a hard time believing anything she had said about me. It all felt like something she had put on. This was heavy ick.
So men do get the ick.
I guess so. It wasn't much longer before I realized the new car smell was gone and I did the slow fade.
I don't like that term.
Right. Yeah, you can't say that women smell old now.
That she was
I
a
get
new
what he's
car.
saying.
Yeah, I get what he's trying to say. I would say it differently.
The bloom was off the rose might be a better way to go.
Yeah.
So he writes, my question
traded her in for a new model. Like, that's what I think of when someone says that.
It is a little. I think his predicament is correct. I
agree.
understand the
I
predicament.
agree. Totally valid.
Is it ever okay for a new person you're dating to compare you to an ex? Could this kind of behavior ever be just a red flag, or is us blindness always a deal breaker? Signed, Ring Chaser Matador.
Okay, so here's the thing.
We're getting a taste of him as well in this email.
Yes.
Like Ring Chaser Matador is like, oh, I guess she's after me and my diamonds, and it's like, dude, 6th date.
Yeah.
Things were said. She
Relax.
sounded bad.
Yeah. This stuff is not becoming, but also not, I would think, I think he's making a lot of generalizations from it. I think it could just be that she's acting very petty. She's not over the breakup. Because if I'm hearing that from someone, to me, that's basically what it means.
Right.
She's not over this breakup. She has a lot of negative feelings towards this person. And it's not a great look to be talking shit about your ex in that way. It's like a lot of petty stuff.
But so beyond the languaging of how this person put it, because I agree with you. To connect it to her being a ring chaser, no. She's still feeling a certain way about this breakup.
Right.
She's still trying to place it in her head. How did it happen? I need to be doing better. He needs to be doing worse. And then he even says she caught herself. No, you're great. Your generosity. Generosity. You see me pay for 6 dates so I could fuck you.
Right.
She
doesn't know anything about
you. You
it.
don't know that yet.
And I agree. That's also like a little. I could see being like a little annoyed by this whole conversation.
This could
totally
be validated. Yeah, this could be a deal breaker. This is a deal breaker for me. Put in a different way.
I think it would be a deal breaker for me if a guy was talking about his ex that way. Also, because I would also think like one day you're going to be talking about me.
Right.
To someone like that. But I also think the comparing you to your ex can be done in a certain conversation, not this way. The question, like in a real, like intimate, vulnerable conversation, it's why did your last relationship end? And if you're like, I think this happens more at the stage where you're committing to someone new, is like, what do you feel like is different about this relationship? Or this dynamic than you had with your ex? I think that's a valid question or a valid thing to talk about in a way that's you can do that though in a respectful, tactful way.
Absolutely.
Do you know what I mean?
All these things could be said different ways and it would be fine.
Right.
He even says like, oh, she's talking about her ex. This is great. This is something I value in like the early stages of dating.
There's a classy way to do it.
But sometimes if you're still mad about something, you can't be classy.
Right.
And anger is like a bad look, and it seems like she's angry still. And I could understand, like, for me, I don't know how I would play it. Like, if you
were him?
If I'm him, do I like the slow fade? That's an option. Just like slowly like back away from it. If you wanted to work on it and you saw some value in like your connection, I think it's okay to be like, hey, you talked about your ex last night. I kind of felt bad, like the way you talked about it. Like, that could be me. Things end. If you want to work on your stuff with your ex and like that breakup and processing that, you have my number for when maybe you're more ready. Like,
I would say something similar. It kind of felt like you weren't fully over your last relationship.
Right. I was turned off. And this is something that is way harder to do, but like letting someone know that like that kind of turned me off, but there's redeemability. Like I think that's part of like
that's
growing.
a more mature way to do it,
right?
Than the slow fade,
which I'm guilty
which
of.
Is
I'm not above.
A little infantile, to use this guy's words back at him.
I get where his like turn off came from. That like
right, but I didn't like is also the way that when he said the new car smell was off. Because I think that that's a fear when people are vulnerable. I don't think there's anything wrong with talking about your ex and being vulnerable. And I think when he says the new car smell faded, it made it seem like, oh, I saw her imperfections and then I was out. Or I saw like something negative about her and then I was out. And I didn't like that mentality about it.
I could also see that it can go the other way too. Like I think describing it that way makes it seem like, I
saw a flaw.
I saw a flaw, I'm out. But if you like, I think like if someone said to me like that they told me about their breakup and they like were like taking ownership and like I feel bad that he's dealing with it that way and I'm dealing with it this way, like I would go, that would make me feel closer to them.
Right.
So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, and again, there's a classy way to do a comparison. I think on a 6th date, you could totally have the conversation of like what went wrong in your last relationship and does this feel different to you?
Right.
And again, you would not necessarily know it's 6 dates. It's not like 20 dates. But I think you could say like, do you feel like this feels different?
To me, this is a deal breaker if I had to make a decision.
I would agree. Yeah.
But it could be presented to them as like, hey, I was having a really good time. I know we got a little drunk last night. The way you described your ex, it sounds like you kind of have some stuff
They could
to
come
work
back
through
from
with
it.
that. Yeah.
I think. Yeah.
So we did it. We solved dating again.
We'll be back next week.
Boom.
Bye. Kate McAuliffe is our senior producer. Our editor is Emily Freed. Candace Maniga is our senior social producer. Our associate producer is Will Maxwell. Additional production help from Shannon Jimenez Sasson. Be sure to follow us at u.up.podcast and send us your emails to uup@betches.com.